Welcome back to Birds of a Feather. This is your daily Baltimore sports podcast, and today we're going to be recapping the Orioles game that just ended literally like 2 to 3 minutes ago. Wanted to hop on here and get this episode out now, but the Orioles, their game just ended a little bit ago. Unfortunately, the Orioles lose 5-2 to the Los Angeles Angels, and once again, it's another loss for the Orioles. Obviously, they went out and they won yesterday. Tomoyuki Sugano had a great game yesterday, and the offense did enough to win. And today was kind of the opposite of that in a way. The pitching wasn't necessarily horrible, but this game, in my opinion, really goes onto the offense because once again, they had opportunities to score with runners in scoring position, and the innings would just get blown with a ground out into double play or just not being able to bring guys home consistently. And again, the Orioles do lose this game. Really nothing happened on offense for this team besides them not being able to bring runners home. There was Ramon Laureano hit a homer. But when you go over to the pitching side, Kyle Gibson did get the start today. And both pitchers both pitchers in this game, the Angels starting pitcher and the Orioles starting pitcher, Kyle Gibson, obviously he, his past two starts that he's had for the Orioles have not been very good, and neither was this one. And this game is 2-0 after the first inning, and you kind of just got that vibe once again that things might not be good for this team. And it was 2-0 after the first inning, and then the Orioles didn't score for a while, and then eventually it was 3-0, then it was 4-0, and then the Orioles came back and then the Orioles came back and scored one, and then the Angels scored another, and then the Orioles scored a meaningless run in the ninth inning. But once again, the starting pitching, lets up a couple runs in the first inning, and the Orioles just aren't able to respond, and they kind of just lay over and fall flat and just kind of roll over and die for the rest of the game. And we've seen that a lot of times this year with the Orioles where the starting pitching doesn't start off great and then the offense just kind of fades away and doesn't really get anything going, which is what happened today. So Kyle Gibson obviously didn't have a great game. The bullpen came in. They let up the bullpen came in and did their job. I mean, they did all they could to keep the game within reach, but the offense could just never respond. So, Kyle Gibson does get some blame. The offense does get some blame. But, overall, it was a pretty messy game. They had chances to bring runners home. They couldn't do it. And also, the starting pitching with Kyle Gibson just wasn't great at all. So, the series is tied up 1-1 now. So, let's just go over this game. So going over this Angels-Orioles game, the Orioles lose 5-2. They now fall back to being 10 games below 500. They're 14-24 on the year, 6-15 on the road, and once again they're back in that 10 games below 500 role, just like they were 2 days ago. And tomorrow they're going to have to be playing for the rubber match. Winner of tomorrow's game takes the series. And we've seen this countless times already this year with the Orioles where they might win game one, they'll lose game two, and then they'll go and lose game three. So hopefully that's not the case. Hopefully they can go out tomorrow with Zach Eflin on the mound. We'll talk more about that in just a second. But going over this Orioles game, starting off with the offense. The offense gets 6 total hits and score only 2 runs. 6 hits, 2 runs. 0 for 3 with runners in scoring position, so once again they can't bring guys in. They left 6 guys on base, and just going over, in the game, going over the scoring, the very little scoring. There really wasn't much going on. Really wasn't much going on both ends. The Angels were able to kind of produce some runs and, they hit 1 home run from Joe Adell and. The Angels necessarily didn't do great, but their pitching was really able to hold this Orioles team down. So, talking about the lineup real quick, because the lineup looked very interesting today, and it was a lineup that looked very interesting going into it, and it just didn't really work, kind of like I thought. Jackson Holliday, his first time ever leading off in his career, so we put Jackson Holliday at leadoff. Obviously, Jackson Holliday has been one of the hottest Orioles hitters here recently, so we kind of capitalize off of that, take advantage of that, and move him up to the leadoff spot. And he doesn't. He honestly does. He had one of the best games on the team. He goes 1 for 3 with a walk, so he got on base twice, which in this game was pretty impressive because the Orioles didn't really do much of anything on offense with their bats. But Jackson Holliday goes 1 for 3 with a walk. His average is at his 274. So, I mean, if Brandon Hyde wants to, because, I mean, at this point, Brandon Hyde just kind of does whatever he wants. Obviously, he's the manager, but some of the decisions that he makes doesn't really make a lot of sense. But I wouldn't be mad if Jackson Holliday stays the leadoff spot. I would keep Jackson Holliday at leadoff until there's a reason to move him. Kind of the same thing with Cedric Mullins, where Cedric Mullins obviously had a really great start to the year. We kind of put him at leadoff. He was doing his thing, and then he kind of, fell off a cliff, started not to do anything at all, and then we moved him back down like we did today, where we moved him to the sixth hitter. Which was good to see from Brandon Hyde that he actually took that initiative to go move Cedric Mullins down after he's not been playing well. But someone that needs to get moved down the lineup, and it kind of breaks my heart saying this because I love this player so much. Obviously, this rebuild really did start with him. Adley Rutschman getting picked first overall way back when, going to Oregon State, obviously drafting him. He was really the first bright light out of this rebuild that the Orioles have been on for a while, and obviously they got out of the rebuild officially in 2023, but Adley Rutschman was kind of that shining light of this team, the first real glimpse of hope, we can fall behind this guy's lead. Him and Gunnar were really the two guys, and Adley Rutschman, I really don't know what's been going on with him. It's really been since the second half of last year. Since the first half last year he was great, but ever since the start of the second half of last season, really since last June to July of last year, Adley Rutschman has just not been the same player at all. We've seen glimpses this season. Obviously, in the first game of the year, he had a 2-home run game. He's had some home runs sprinkled out throughout the season and some multi-hit games sprinkled out throughout the year, but Adley Rutschman has just been on a pretty bad stretch of games, a really bad stretch of games. His average now drops below a 200 to a 195. And what concerns me is Adley Rutschman, even when we drafted him, way back when, Adley Rutschman was always known as a, contact first guy. Obviously, Adley Rutschman could drive balls out of the park, but he was always really known as a contact first guy and a catcher who has a very high average. That's what kind of set him apart from a lot of people. It wasn't necessarily his defense as a catcher. It was more of his offense and him just being able to get on base and being able to be very versatile with, switching, being a switch hitter and everything. But Adley Rutschman just has not been good this year overall at this point. Again, it's May 10th, 2025, and Adley Rutschman's average is below 200. He goes 0 for 4 today. He doesn't do anything. And it's really disappointing to see. And Adley Rutschman has always been either, he's let off the game a few times for the Orioles, but he's necessarily always a 2 or 3 hitter, and we've sometimes had him as a 4 hitter. We've never moved him anywhere below that. So I think Brandon Hyde kind of needs to take some initiative with this decision and move Adley Rutschman down to 5, 6, 7 hitter, because he has just not been producing in the 2-hole or the 3-hole. And obviously those are very important spots in a lineup, and Adley Rutschman's just not been performing, and it's unfortunate, but at the end of the day, you got to do what's best for the team. But yeah, hopefully he can get going sooner rather than later, but he just has not been performing the way that I think a lot of people expected him. He had a back injury last year, so maybe that's why some people... He had a back injury, but he played through it, so, that a lot of people were saying, okay, maybe that's why he was playing bad. He recovered, he feels good, he feels healthy. He said that in interviews during spring training, but he comes back out here and just kind of carried over to this season, so hopefully he can get back on track. Gunnar Henderson was DHing today. He was batting third. Obviously, this is where Gunnar usually bats anyway, usually the 1, 2, or 3 hole. Gunnar Henderson goes 1 for 4. He scores one of the 2 runs that we had in this game, and he also had 2 strikeouts. Really, nothing special with Gunnar. Ryan Mountcastle was the only player on the team with a multi-hit game, so it's cool to see. Ryan Mountcastle's been struggling a little bit this year, so it's nice to see him get 2 hits this game. He goes 2 for 4 and with an RBI. He drove in the Gunnar Henderson run in the 6th inning. And then Ramon Laureano came in as a pinch hitter. Ryan O'Hearn was in the game. He goes 0 for 1 with 2 walks. So, I mean, Ryan O'Hearn continues to get on base. He continues to be a very solid player for the Orioles this year. Again, he's overall been like the best hitter for this team this season so far. He goes 0 for 1 today. Doesn't get a hit, but he does get on base twice with the walk. So, he is getting on base. He is helping this team out. Ramon Laureano comes in as a pinch hitter in the 9th inning, and then he actually hits a solo home run in the 9th inning. Obviously, it didn't really do anything. I mean, it cut the lead down to 3. But going into the 9th inning, it was 5-1. Ramon Laureano came in, made it 5-2. Didn't really change anything. No one was on base. But Ramon Laureano, he's silently and secretly been, I don't want to say one of the Orioles' best hitters, but in terms of power hitters, he's actually, he's hitting home runs. He's hitting bombs. I'm not necessarily going to complain about Ramon Laureano because he's kind of doing his thing. His slug is at a 515, so, I mean, he's hitting the ball hard. So I'm not really going to complain about Ramon Laureano. He's he's a solid rotational guy. Goes out here, gets a solo home run. Good for him. Cedric Mullins down here at the 6th hole goes 0 for 4. Cedric Mullins still just cannot get out of the slump that he's in. His average is down to a 220. Kind of the same boat as Adley Rutschman, where kind of seems to get it going sooner rather than later. Heston Kjerstad goes 0 for 3. Tyler O'Neill comes in as a pinch hitter. He doesn't do anything. Emmanuel Rivera goes 1 for 4. He gets another hit. He continues this hitting streak, and he continues to be a very solid everyday third baseman right now with all the injuries going on. And then Jorge Mateo played in this game. He goes 0 for 2 with a walk. Again, Jorge Mateo just doesn't really, in terms of offense and bats, he doesn't provide literally anything to this team, and I just don't understand why he gets at bats anymore. But anyway, it's not his fault. It's just overall, it's a little annoying seeing Jorge Mateo keep playing because he's just not very good. But going over to the pitching of this game, which this game kind of started off pretty grim. Kyle Gibson gives up the 2 runs in the first inning, and it was 2-0 going into the second inning, and just again kind of felt like this game was over, even though you don't want to say that. But the Orioles have really given me no reason to think that they can come back into a game. Like when the Orioles get scored on first and they're in an early deficit, it's just hard for them to really get back into a game because the offense just isn't producing like it should. So Kyle Gibson gets the loss. He's 0-2 in his first 3 starts of the season. And what's funny about his stat line is that his ERA actually got better than what it was going into this game. Kyle Gibson's ERA going into this game was I think like a 14.1, and his ERA is now at a 13.1. And Kyle Gibson gets through 4 innings, gives up 7 hits, 5 runs, 3 walks, has 4 strikeouts, and gives up a home run. So, allows 10 base runners, gives up 5 runs. Obviously, from a starting pitcher, that's just not really ideal at all. I really don't know what else to say. Kyle Gibson is the 5th guy in the rotation behind, obviously, now Eflin, Tomoyuki Sugano, Dean Kramer, Cade Povich, and then Kyle Gibson. So, don't really blame Kyle Gibson. I mean, I guess it's better than Charlie Morton, but at the same time, I mean, both of them have been pretty trash this year. So, don't know if Kyle Gibson's going to get another start this year. We'll see if Brandon Hyde continues to roll out with this rotation, especially with Zach Eflin coming back from injury. We'll see what he does with the rotation. We'll see, who the 5th guy is. If it remains as Kyle Gibson, then we might be cooked. But we'll see what happens at this point. The pitching this year has just been like a complete gamble and dice roll based on who is actually going to be pitching for us. Colin Selby comes into the game, doesn't give up a run. Sino Perez doesn't give up a run. And then Charlie Morton, big highlight. His best appearance as an Oriole all season. Obviously, Charlie Morton's had some horrible games as a starter. He is 0-7. He's been credited with 7 losses. He has been horrible for the Orioles. Obviously, he's been kind of moved to that bullpen guy. And I had a feeling that Brandon Hyde thought that this game wasn't even winnable when it was 5-1. I think he kind of thought, okay, we're not getting back into this game. So he put Charlie Morton into the game in a low leverage, low pressure situation, which is fine. Charlie Morton coming into this game is completely fine because I kind of already accepted that we lost going into the 8th inning. Or going into the 7th inning, I even accepted that we lost this game. So Charlie Morton, I was okay with him coming into the game. Obviously, I think Charlie Morton just needs to see himself have some good outings, whether that's obviously in the bullpen or starter, but he's not a starter anymore. So coming out of the bullpen, him having some good outings could be nice. And he's also one of those guys who could potentially be like a 2-inning guy out of the bullpen just because of the experience and him being a starter. He can maintain that workload. But obviously the problem with Charlie Morton is that he's just not been good. But Charlie Morton, and this is probably actually the most interesting part of this entire game and the things that's most intriguing with this game. Charlie Morton goes 2 innings, gives up 0 hits, 0 runs, 0 walks, and has 2 strikeouts in a 30-pitch count across 2 innings. His ERA drops to an 8.82. Obviously, I mean, he's still, I still don't trust Charlie Morton with anything. If we put Charlie Morton in a situation where we're leading in a game, or we put Charlie Morton in a game where we're even down by 1 or 2 runs, I would still be very concerned. But it's nice to see him perform and do well in a low leverage, low intent situation. So it's good to see that. Charlie Morton, 2 innings scoreless. Obviously, this guy's a 41-year-old pitcher, so I should have this. He's a 41-year-old pitcher who's a veteran, so I should have the bar a little higher just because he knows what he's doing. But obviously, this season's been horrible for Charlie. But he goes 2 innings scoreless, so that's nice to see. Hopefully he can get some good outings in the bullpen just like this moving forward, and we'll see if we trust him with a big, high intense situation later on down the line. I'm not sure about that though. I don't even want to think about that right now. But what I do want to think about is this rubber match for tomorrow, which is the rubber match versus the Angels and Orioles tomorrow. Winner takes the series, and both teams are rolling out there with their best pitcher on the roster, to be honest. And the Orioles, obviously, Zach Eflin is returning tomorrow. This is a big deal. This is a big thing. Obviously, Zach Eflin, in my opinion, at this point, after evaluating everything going on, in terms of on the roster, Kyle Bradish, obviously, I think is a better pitcher than Zach Eflin. But at this point in his career, with all these injuries that he's had, I don't know how well he's going to perform. And also, we're not going to see him for a while. Same with Grayson Rodriguez. We're not going to also see him for a while. I mean, he's at this point an injury-riddled player. But in terms of the best pitchers on this roster, it's either Zach Eflin or Tomoyuki Sagano, but I still give the edge to Zach Eflin just due to the experience, just due to him being in the majors for as long as he has been. And Zach Eflin, obviously, opening day starter. So, again, we do trust this guy. We do trust this guy as our number 1 pitcher. And, moving forward, it's going to be Eflin and Sagano as kind of that 1-2 punch at the top of the pitching rotation. So that's always nice to see. It's amazing to see Zach Eflin coming back because, again, ever since Zach Eflin gone down, ever since Zach Eflin went down, this team has, went to complete. It's just been a complete dumpster fire with this team, and it really started with him getting hurt first, because then Tomoyuki Sagano kind of had to carry the load, and no one else was helping him. Dean Kramer, Cade Povich, Charlie Moore, all of them were just doing horrible. We would bring up Brandon Young. He'd do horrible. So getting Zach Eflin, again, this is going to be a very big snowball effect to the rest of the pitching. Getting Zach Eflin back is also going to help Tomoyuki Sagano, and it's also going to help Cade Povich and Dean Kramer. It's going to help the bullpen. It's just a big wave of effect. That's what happens when you go and get a pitcher back in your rotation, and not just a pitcher, but your number 1 pitcher back in your rotation. So Zach Eflin is back. In his 4 starts that he had this year, he went 2-1. I think he had 4 starts. Is it 2 or 3 starts he had this year? 3 starts he had this year. So in his 4 starts he had this year, credited a 2-1 record, 3.0 ERA, .83 WHIP, 18 innings, 14 hits, 8 strikeouts, 1 walk, 2 home runs. So again, Zach Eflin's always been one of those pitchers where he doesn't really walk guys. He's always kind of been known for that, a pitcher who just doesn't walk. He likes to keep things in the strike zone, and he's also a big strikeout pitcher as well. So getting Zach Eflin back is a very, very big deal. But we're facing Tyler Anderson, who has been one of the more underrated pitchers over the last few years with the Angels. Again, Tyler Anderson is the Angels' best pitcher. You could argue Yusei Kikuchi, but Tyler Anderson this year, 2-0 record, 2.68 ERA, 1.04 WHIP, 40 innings pitched, 27 hits, 34 strikeouts. So he's having one of the better years from an American League pitcher, and really from a pitcher in general who's been playing, as a starter. He's having one of the better years on like the better end and the better half of pitchers this year. So it's going to be a challenge. 2 best pitchers on the team. Should be a pretty good game. We'll see, how this game goes. Obviously, the hope is that the Orioles offense can finally show up and start to do things, because at this point, like, the Orioles offense maximum can really only score 4, 5, 6 runs max, and that feels like a good day. It feels like most of the time they're scoring 1, 2, or 3 runs, or maybe even 0 runs. So would love to see the Orioles offense kind of get at Tyler Anderson early. Would like to see them get on the board early, because usually throughout this year, when they get on the board early and they can get a little 2-0, 3-1 lead or something like that, they tend to do very well this year with holding a lead and just kind of moving throughout the game with that lead. If they get scored on first, they kind of crumble and don't do anything. But if they can just attack early, get on the board early, I have a lot of confidence in them winning this game tomorrow. So Zach Eflin return. It's a big day tomorrow. This game is at 3 o'clock. So again, I'll have an episode up sometime tomorrow night covering this game after the game ends, and then obviously we move into the this next week. Where do we have a day off? I don't even know why I'm checking this right now, but yeah, we do have a day off on Monday, going back to playing Minnesota in Baltimore. So, but we'll get to that more later. But yeah, I'll have the episode up tomorrow, sometime after the game, and again, just attack early. If we can get on the board early, good things will happen for us, and we can move forward with that. Thank you guys so much again for watching and listening to this episode of Birds of a Feather. Whether you're on Spotify or YouTube, make sure to follow up on Spotify, subscribe on YouTube if you like this content. I appreciate all the support from you guys. I'm having a ton of fun doing this. Obviously, this Orioles season has been pretty crazy, but we're getting through it. Every single game will be on here, recapping every single Orioles game, all Ravens news, every Orioles game, everything Baltimore sports related. We will be covering. Can't wait for football season happening in a couple of months. But in the meantime, Orioles baseball pretty much every single day will have to do. But yeah, we're having a ton of fun doing this. I'll have an episode up to sometime tomorrow night after the Orioles game, recapping that game, and hopefully the Orioles can win the series and win the rubber match tomorrow, because they really need it. They really need to go on some type of momentum and just get some momentum going. So yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one. Y'all have a great rest of y'all's day, and I'll see y'all later. Peace out.